Good morning. Today I'm going to talk about 5.5a, classifying two-dimensional figures, part 1. Now the reason there's going to be two parts to this is because I want to talk about quadrilaterals separately from the triangles. Now, y'all remember our little rhyme, I am such a cutie pie. Oops. I am such a cutie pie. I bake pies that are made out of raspberries and another kind of raspberries. And I'm so weird that my pies come out in the shape of a square. Okay? So I'm such a cutie pie. I bake pies that are made out of raspberry and another kind of raspberry. And I'm so weird that my pies come out in the shape of a square. Now, the main thing about quadrilaterals, and I'm going to start filling in our words, quadrilateral. The word quadri means four, and in Spanish, cuatro, right? Cuadri, cuatro. Lateral, lateral, side, so it's four-sided. So these are all four-sided figures. They have to have four sides, all right? Now, what creates two categories is their parallel lines. Now, a trapezoid only has one pair of parallel lines, the top one and the bottom one, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and outline that. The top one and the bottom one, not the ones on the side, because the ones on the side, when they actually go up, they actually end up meeting. Okay, so that is not parallel. Parallel means that they do not touch. And I always use the example of the street. So my side of the street will never ever join the other side of the street. Okay, so that is parallel. Now, parallelogram has two pairs of parallel lines. Okay, two pairs of parallel lines. So that means that this line is parallel to this line. That's one pair. Means two makes one pair. And then this line is parallel to that line. You see that? So it's two pairs. One, and then that's two. Parallelogram. Now, a rectangle has the same attributes. It has two pairs of parallel lines. This one at the top and the ones on the side. The same thing as a rhombus. Now, it is not called a diamond, it is called a rhombus. Okay, so this line is parallel to this one. And the ones on the side, the ones that are opposite to each other, are parallel as well. So this one is parallel to this one. And then this one is parallel to this one. Okay? I know my rectangle is a little crooked, but you get the picture. And then, of course, our square, our lovely square. Square has two pairs of parallel line as well. Opposite sides are parallel to each other because they do not touch. Okay. Now, other attributes that these shapes have, the rectangle. What a rectangle shares with the square is that it has four right angles, okay? So a square can be a rectangle, but a rectangle can never be a square, okay? And a rhombus, what a rhombus shares with the square is that it has four equal sides, the same thing as a square, okay? And all of these figures, so the rhombus, the rectangle, and the square, all are parallelograms, okay? Now, also, I want to go over their sides. They have congruent sides. So a rhombus has 4 congruent sides, just like a square. Okay? And a trapezoid has no congruent sides, only has one pair of parallel sides, and their angles, this one has 2 acute angles and 2 obtuse angles. Remember, acute means it's little, so it's less than 90 degrees. Obtuse, like a big caboose, it's big, so it's bigger than 90 degrees. All right? So a rectangle has the 4 right angles, just like a square. A rhombus has 2 obtuse and 2 acute. 2 obtuse and 2 acute. And the same thing like a parallelogram, it has 2 acute and 2 obtuse. All right, so remember that a square can be a rectangle and it can also be a rhombus, but a rhombus cannot be a square. And the reason is that it only has one quality of it. So I always think of these as like parents, and that is their child, okay? So you can be part of your mom, but your mom cannot be part of you because you have part of your dad. All right, so that is my quadrilaterals. And usually when you have questions about 2-dimensional figures, you will have a graphic organizer. So this is not the only graphic organizer that you'll have. Let me go ahead and erase it. Now, another thing that I want to go over it really quickly is that the biggest umbrella of all of these shapes is called polygons. A polygon means, poly means many, and gons means sides. So there's many sides, all right? So now, remember we said that there was going to be 2 parts to this video. Now I've already gone over the first part. The first part out of this umbrella is the quadrilaterals. So this is where the I'm such a cutie pie. Big pie is out of raspberry and another kind of raspberry, and I'm so weird that they come out in the shape of a square. That is the one part of the video, all right? So now we've also discussed that these will be in several different graphic organizers. One that I've seen is just a circle, and then they'll tell you there's circles in there, and then they'll tell you find the missing circle. So they'll say quadrilateral, and just give me a moment, I'm just writing this down. And then they have parallelogram, and then they have rhombus, and then they ask you what would be inside the last circle. We have quadrilateral, parallelogram, and then they have rhombus. So I'm such a QT, I don't need the T, but I need the pie. So that's the parallelogram. I bake pies that are either out of raspberry or the other kind of raspberry. In this case, this raspberry is rhombus. And then what would go inside the rhombus? Well, the square, all right? So that's one type of graphic organizers that you'll probably see. You'll also see tables, but that's really more for the triangles. There's one question that I wanted to go over, and it's this one. I'll read it to you. So it says, while reading these clues on the cards, Jillian came across these. It says, I have 4 parallel sides. All of my sides are congruent, and all of my angles are congruent. Well, you already know that the ones that are parallel, it has to be a parallelogram, right? Because those are the only ones that have 4 sides that are parallel. Now, you have to look at your categories. You're in the P's, right? So in the parallelogram, so it could either be a rhombus, a rectangle, or square, even a parallelogram. These are all the shapes that have 4 parallel sides. So now you have to look at the second bullet point. Now it says all my sides are congruent. Or a parallelogram does not have all sides that are congruent. So second bullet point, sides that are congruent. Remember, congruent means same size, same shape. A rhombus has 4 congruent sides, so I'm going to put a little check mark by there. Rectangle does not, so I take it out. A square does. So now, the third bullet point. It says all my angles congruent. Angles are congruent. Now you have to remember that a rhombus has 2 acute and 2 obtuse. So it cannot be a rhombus. So our answer should be a square. And if you notice, our answer is D. Alright, so you have to know your attributes of your shapes. Attributes are like their qualities. And that can be their sides, that can be their angles, and all that good stuff. Alright, so thank you for joining me today. I will see you later. Bye.